As a nutritionist, I make a living sharing fat loss and nutrition tips with millions of people every single month. I've seen incredible, life-changing results for men and women all around the world. I've written books and meal plans and literally thousands of blogs and videos on exactly this topic. And yet, my husband didn't listen to me.
Yeah.
Can anyone else relate? And look, I hate to say I told you so, but after literally years of my husband ignoring this one huge piece of advice, he finally made this one huge change to his breakfast that took him from being stuck with his fat loss progress to actually seeing amazing body transformation. So today I'm sharing that one major mistake he was making, how he fixed it, and what his results are. Because as much as it might seem like I'm picking on him right now, he is definitely not the only person making the mistake. Let's dive into it. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition human performance. On my channel, I share the science-backed and delicious details for how you can achieve your weight loss and wellness dreams. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Okay, so let's go straight into the mistake. The huge mistake that he kept making that I would see him doing every single morning was that he was making his morning breakfast smoothie with way too much fat and way too little protein, which I'll let Trevor explain exactly how he made his smoothie.
Okay, so what did your smoothie used to have?
Okay, so I used to have flaxseed, chia seed, hemp, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and a lot of peanut butter. I do probably 2 hefty scoops of peanut butter.
Like heaping. Tablespoons.
Yeah. Like the jar would be empty within the week.
Yeah.
Like
you'd go through one of those a week.
Yeah.
What was the rest of it? Like what else would you put in there? You put in protein powder and you put in
I put in protein
yogurt,
powder, yeah.
But how much protein powder would you put in?
I would be like 1 scoop.
Yeah, 1 scoop.
Yeah.
And then you also put in Greek yogurt. How much would you put in?
Probably like a spoonful,
Yeah.
probably just that much.
Yeah.
Not a lot at all.
I think you also put in cacao nibs, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you also put in cacao nibs. So cacao is another source of fat. It's also a source of fiber. All of these are good ingredients, but he just had so much of it going on that it was so high in fat and only had about 15 grams of protein.
And smoothies actually can be really great. It's not the fact that he was having a smoothie, it's just how he was making it. And the way he was making it was completely hindering his results. And that's because fat is important to have in a smoothie. It helps to raise satiety, helps provide fat-soluble vitamins. You do need some fat in there. However, it is nowhere nearly as satiating as protein. So if you're filling up on fat before you're filling up on getting enough protein, it is very easy to eat well beyond what your body actually needs. Protein makes us feel a lot fuller for a lot longer. It also prevents muscle breakdown during a fat loss journey, which is really crucial because when you lose muscle, when you're losing weight, it makes it so that your metabolism can really slow down so that you have to keep eating less and less and less in order to achieve those same results. Plus, from a body composition perspective, you're not going to get the most optimal results when you're breaking down muscle while also breaking down fat. Instead of looking like you have lower body fat percentage, you're pretty much just getting to be like a smaller version of what you were before, but the body composition won't really look like it's improving. Getting enough protein also stops sugar cravings, which makes it so it's so much easier to maintain your results. And not having enough protein in that first meal like Trevor was having with his morning smoothie can really set you up for failure for the rest of the day, because we do need quite a bit of protein to achieve those body recomposition and fat loss results. And by having a very low protein intake, like with Trevor's breakfast, where it's only about 15 grams of protein in his whole smoothie, it makes it so you're starting off in a huge protein deficit, which can honestly be very hard to make up later on. So you're unlikely to actually get enough protein throughout the rest of the day to make up for what you didn't eat earlier in the day. Plus, you're more likely to have more sugar cravings, which is something that Trevor would often experience when he was at work or when he'd come back from work, which would then lead him to having a bunch of peanut butter with some chocolate. And obviously none of that was really supportive of his body recomposition and fat loss goal. So here's the major change that he made. The change actually really happened by accident. It didn't actually happen because he was really listening to me, as much as I would like to think that's why. But it happened after we had our first baby, Sage. We were both on maternity and paternity leave together. And so he was at home eating pretty much all the same meals as me. And I was on my own postpartum fat loss journey. I was following the exact strategies from my body recomposition program. And I was also eating the meals from that program. But my absolute favorite meal from that program were my chocolate chip protein waffles. I had those pretty much every single day. They were so good. They're still so good. In fact, I've been craving them lately and I think I will make them tomorrow morning. But I was making these protein waffles that were really dense in protein. Just 2 of those waffles have about 26 grams of protein, not to mention all the the toppings that go on there, it's going to amount to be like 40, sometimes even 50 grams of complete protein with that one meal. I started making these and then Trevor was like, ooh, that looks really good. And so he started having them instead of his usual smoothie. So this resulted in him consistently going from about a 15-gram worth of protein breakfast to about 40 to 50 grams of protein with his very first meal. That is a significant jump in protein. And he still had some fat on there. Like Trevor loved adding pumpkin seeds and walnuts. Those are some of his favorite. I loved adding almond butter, but he didn't need to add as much because he was so much more satiated when he had more protein. So the protein to fat was so much more balanced. And this happens quite naturally when you just increase your protein intake and make sure to actually prioritize that. Which brings me to his results, because they were really drastic, especially considering we were postpartum and it's not exactly the time that you would consider to have like major body transformation, especially on accident.
Okay, so we just found his old InBody. This was back in what year? 2023. So you had 13.4% body fat and your skeletal muscle was 80.2. So then after he made those changes, body fat dropped to 11.6. So like about 2%, and his muscle went up to 82.7. So body composition really changed. So you can see his body fat went down in pounds. It went down to 18.8, but his muscle went up to 82.7 versus before his muscle or his body fat was at 21.7 and his muscle was at 80.2. So it was like 3 pounds of body fat you lost while increasing 2 pounds of muscle. Pretty good.
That's great.
When I started posting pictures of you around this time, people were like, whoa, your shoulders right here.
Yeah.
That's where like you could really see the muscle definition and
Yeah.
the fact that your body fat percentage was a lot lower, but your muscle's going up.
Now, the reason why he saw these drastic changes to his body composition and lower body fat while also seeing an increase in muscle is because he was having about 2 to 3 times the amount of protein with his first meal. And he was having that consistently every single day. So he was more satisfied and he was able to regulate his hunger and satiety a lot better. He was no longer getting cravings for a lot of those sugary foods later in the day. So he wasn't having them anymore. That full combination made it so much easier for his body to start pulling from his own fat stores, which of course would then lower his body fat percentage. But because he was also getting more protein, it was protecting his muscles from breaking down. That meant that he was actually able to start seeing the benefits of the strength training that he was doing. He was able to recover better and actually see those muscle changes that he was working for like years. So here's how you can take this information and apply it to your own life. First of all, you need to know how much protein you really should be eating a day. How much protein I need is a lot different than how much protein Trevor needs. If you ever look at our 2 protein waffles, you'll see that as a great example. I usually have about 2 protein waffles, maybe 3 with the toppings. He usually has 4. Now you can do this really quickly and easily with my free protein calculator. I'll have the link for it down in the description below so that you can check it out, but I'll also have the link pop up right here. This would be a really great first step to determine how much protein you really need. So you can start off with your base of hitting up protein and then just add in the fat from there. That way it's more balanced and it's going to be something that's more supportive of a fat loss goal. Now, if you want more of those step-by-step details of how to adjust your meals or create your meals to support a fat loss goal, then you can check out my 6-week body recomposition program. This is the exact program that I followed to help me achieve my 20-pound postpartum weight loss goal while primarily burning fat as fuel. The program comes with over 50 delicious high protein recipes and 6 weeks of meal planning to help support your goals. It also has over 100 pages of science-backed tips and tools to individualize your results. And these were the recipes, including the protein waffle that Trevor and I absolutely lived on. So if you want to check out that program, the community absolutely loves it. It's a fan favorite. I'll have it pop up right here somewhere, or you can find it on my website at autumnlnutrition.shop. Now, if you want to check out the exact tips and what I did to lose 20 pounds postpartum, you can find it with this video next. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed and delicious information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.